Hey, what's up guys, Shadow Steel here. Welcome back to Railroads Online. So, we've taken our train back to the main yard past last episode. I took it back to the main yard, dropped off some cars here and there, and I had started to organize this a little bit. But then I realized we're going to need extra power on this railroad at this point. Because at this point, we've got cars filled with water, cars filled with hay, cars filled with grain, beams, we're going to have pipes, we're going to have more oil, we're going to have more coal, gold, everything. And with our last delivery, I made quite a bit of money. Our delivery of gold actually netted us quite a big haul. And actually, I think I bought a couple more cars recently. I bought a couple more water cars recently. So there's that. But I think it might be time to get our third. I think it's the third. No, it's the fourth. I think it's the fourth locomotive, the fourth Uinta articulate in the roster. So I'm gonna get the big stupid. Another big stupid. Also, if you haven't guessed, the town has started to grow a little bit here in the main area. I've slowly started to grow things out. Not by much, though. And I've also added some lighting and a little bit more decorations here and there. The street light's actually part of my favorite little thing. So, it's not the best looking street lights, but hey, it's something. Alright, so this is what I'm going to do. We are going to buy a locomotive. So, we're going to go to the buy menu. This is probably the first time in this video series in a long time that we've been into the buy menu. We're going to get a locomotive. We're going to go all the way to the very end here, to the Uintas. Jesus H. Christ, that Baldwin designation is something else. Let's zoom out here a little bit. This is so huge. I could barely imagine this thing running on a 3-foot gauge railroad. This is probably the largest locomotive on 3-foot narrow gauge that was on 3-foot narrow gauge for a while. This was probably the biggest one. We're gonna get one locomotive. I'm gonna stick with let's go freight style, like old school freight. I'm gonna go with the classic cap stack. Go get a different headlight here. We're gonna make it look old school, like super old school. Okay. This last headlight that I want. There we go, that's a good one. That looks silly, but I like it. Alright, so this is gonna be number 254, I think? I think it's either 254 or 253. No, it's 253, because I have, wait, no. Yeah, I think it is 253. I think it's 253 on the roster. Good there? Go name it. Oh, that doesn't work. Hang on. I'm doing a little trick here. There we go. I think railway would be a good idea. What the? Oh, interesting. Okay, we have to space that a little bit. Don't need that much spacing. There we go. One over. One over. Oh, what the hell? Huh. Okay, let's try this. And try, because there's a little trick here I'm doing here. There we go. There we go. That looks good. Sort of. Let me try something here. I could do 2 brakes, I think. We are. Bam. Oh, dear Lord, that's not going to work. There we go. Well, that'll work, I guess. Not exactly what I want, but hey, it's something. I think it should be centered though, so that's good. Oh Lord. Alright, so there's our locomotive. It takes a little bit of effort to really get these work right. Oh, wait, hold on. CO dot. What? A break over there? Huh. There's only so much you can do, eh? Alright, well, so much for that idea. Oh well. I was hoping to have, like, the name company on the bottom there, but nope. Okay. And text calls or not. There used to be a way to get in here, and I would probably take a good screenshot from this end. But oh well. Order up. There we are. Oh, hello. Landed on the switch. That's not ideal. It's also facing in the wrong direction, so we have to turn it on the turntable. Alright, sir. So we got our Uinta articulate here. Okay. Let's go ahead and get her moving, shall we? Oh dear Lord Cat. Now open up the hatch. Get some coal in the fire. Alright. More coal in the hole. Actually, probably don't need that much. We just need a couple bits. There we go. And wait for it to bring pressure up here real quick. And while that's going, I'm actually going to grab our switcher and we're going to take her out. Let's see. Yeah, that's what I'll do. So a little switcher here. We're going to grab some cordwood while we're waiting for that locomotive to steam up. So, we're going to unhook from here. Grab some more firewood. Toss it in the hole. Close the hatch. Get in the driver engineer seat. And off we go. Alright, we're going to wait for that to build up pressure. Actually, what I could do to save time, we'll go into the main, grab the locomotive, shove it into the surfacing track so we can get it serviced for the run while we're doing our work with the other with the switcher. And then once we get that all serviced, it should be good to go. Blow for the crossing here. We got a crossing coming up. There we go. Clear the junction. Actually, that might be just stupid enough to work. Because we have to turn that locomotive around anyway. And our little switcher has to go up to the logging line anyway. We could do... Well, that could work. Yeah, that could work. We'll do that. We'll take this up to the logging Y that we have up in the main line there. Run around, send it around the Y, and then from there we will drag it back down and then have it hook onto the train. There you go. Blowing for these crossings now. You know, passenger train waiting here. I think I got a few passenger cars too recently, actually. Now I think about it. I'm still waiting for the safeties to blow, so we'll do this. Ease it onto the back of this. Bang! And throttle here. I'm gonna go back into the cab here. We're gonna where is the brakes? There they are. Brakes off. Reverser is set to 0. Throttle is set to 0. Train is ready to go. Cab and launch it. Alright, let's go. Pull! You probably should turn that off for a bit. Can't see out this cab. Go, out we go. There we go. Now we go into the map here. I'm dragging a dead locomotive to a Y and then turning around there. Got it. This is ridiculous. I love it. Yeah, why not? No. Yeah, we'll go back around it rather than going. Yeah, that should work. How are we doing back there? Oh, giant ass tender. Giant ass locomotive behind us. Funny. A little bit of first person running today. Got the throttle all the way open, so that should be good. It's been a while since we've gone up the logging line on it, now that I think about it. And it's mainly because we've just been handling the gold run for so long. So having a giant articulate going around the logging branch and then proceeding to take a bunch of cars up the logging... Actually, that actually would be fun. We're going to kick it. That's what we'll do. We'll kick the locomotive. That's going to be stupid, but it would be so fun. Because we're right next to the coupler anyway. There's no handbrakes on it, though. That's going to be tricky. But we do have pressure, so we should have the brakes on. The ability to turn on the brakes. Is that a visual glitch? It might be. Yeah, I know there's a visual glitch. If you lean out the window and then press V, it actually triggers the camera to be off-centered. I think that's why I managed to pull off there. I don't know if they fixed that or not. Okay, we're through. Alright, throttle off. We'll let it coast a little bit here. Brakes on. Reverser back. Alright, we're set to depart. Or set to... Well, we're set to do dumb stuff. Alright, here we go. Get it shoved back. Brakes off. Kick it. Until we get over the close to the switch here. Uncouple. Brakes on. Brakes! There you go. Oh, right on! Fuck! My God, that's Chef Kiss. Chef's Kiss. Alright, he's good. Clear the switch. Alright, we're clear the switch. That's for sure. And as long as he rolls off the main here, we should be good. Off onto the main, that is. It should be good. A little tiny tree here. Tiny tree. Alright. He's gonna clip the wire, isn't he? Yeah, he does. That's fine. Wires don't work. On switch. There you go. Big hit on the block. Alright. Liner. We kicked it. Good. Looks like it's all off the switch there. Oh, shit. Use the brakes. There we go. Line that switch back. Okay. We got the locomotive turned around. That's good. Now we got to couple our switcher back onto the rear of the train. We'll drag its ass back over to the siding where we'll couple into the... Well, we'll uncouple from that and then proceed to couple into the cordwood flats where we'll get cordwood. Because we need to get the cordwood anyway. Brakes off. Got it. Off we go, sir. Alright. Lean it down the hill. Switching shenanigans, eh? That's what this game is all about. Switch. Clear. Alright, brakes on. Oh, hey, telegraph. Supposedly there was a message with that telegraph that people noticed, but I think it's just a simple SOS. Or something like that. Don't need to be full ranking it here. Jesus. Okay, come on. Alright, we should be already... Oh, that was pretty close. I'm on the telegraph lines. Yeah. I do like the diamond stacks on these locomotives. I like a lot of these locomotives, even though they're not the best in terms of details, they're still nice, honestly, in my opinion. They're still fun to drive. It's not like a toy. It's more of a model train sim than anything. It's not really meant. Like it's not even a sim, really. It's just a train game. It's mostly game. Alright. Dublin. Bang. Ouch. Banged into the car at like high speed there, Jesus. Brakes on that car, or the locomotive there. We'll get onto the locomotive here, release the brakes. And you're still centered, right? Yeah, you're still centered. We'll go take you down to the surfacing track. Alright, let's make sure to switch their line back. Alright, the Uinta locomotives are probably the few locomotive types that I'm honestly like very happy with, but at the same time it's like, okay, there's plenty of issues with it. There are plenty of issues with the game in general, but like the Uinta locomotives, they're kind of wonky. I will admit that. They seem to be less powerful than they feel like they should. They look less but then again, I think it's most narrow gauge equipment at the end of the day. Turn on the light here so we can actually see what we're doing. But the game has issues, obviously. There's no doubt about that. But I've always had fun with just messing around with stuff and building my own railroad. It really does feel like it's more for model trains and whatnot, rather than just playing around with like, oh yeah, we're just going to operate trains, actually deal with industries and everything like that. No, that's never been really the feel that I've gotten from this game. To me, it's always been like, this is a model train type-esque layout type thing, where it's like, you mess around with trains, you don't have really operational... If you want, like, the real operational part of it is very simplified, whereas, like, games like Railroader, and I've played that a ton since it came out, Railroader feels like a more operational side of things, and Railroads Online feels like, oh yeah, it's a train game, you can play with trains type thing. You don't really have the physics or like any like calculations that anything that goes with it. It's not really that big of a game that it doesn't really strike a balance per se of this is a game that features trains but also features like industry and planning and all this other kind of stuff. It's not as in depth, if you will. And I feel like that's kind of one of the downsides of this game, is that it has this, it had potential. There's no doubt about that. I've gotten a couple comments in the course of me playing this game, like, oh yeah, a game that had a ton of potential but was left in the dust. And they're not wrong. The game, oh shit. That was 20 seconds, right? The game had a ton of potential. It had a great start, I will admit. It's just that when you actually started... Did I put the brakes on somehow? Oh no, it's just heavy. Fair enough. It's just that when it started to become obvious that it was more a game than an actual simulator, it's just like you had this dynamic if you will. There's always this feel that this is more meant for the model train, sort of like goofing around, like, oh yeah, let's do this. I mean, even as far back as the early days, you saw players just making the craziest crap out there. I mean, my first real exposure to the game was through Heist and its hardcore maps on Railroads Online, and it was just one of his most famous lines in that, like, one of the things he did in that game was actually just lay some janky track just to extend the logging branch loading area just a little bit, and he derailed immediately trying to go over it. And he says the line, he says this line that's just burned into my brain now, saying, "Do we count this as a derail or me suffering from my own hubris?" And it's like, that's how people play it. Like, even back then, like, that was 2021 when the game first came out, and it was like, oh geez, this is obviously not going to be a game for like the simulator aspect of it. Like, there's not going to be, and there was obviously signs from the very beginning that the game was just like, oh yeah, that's just going to be janky as all hell and whatnot. It's a janky mess, no doubt about it. But it was one of those things where it's like, it's a janky mess, but it's actually kind of fun to mess around with. That was kind of the whole appeal of the game, was that actual jankiness to the game. Alright. We should... Okay. So this is the water hatch here. That's the water tower. Are we able to move the... we might be able to move it just a tad over. Ah! I'm stuck in the door. Alright. Back it up. Just a bit more. Do it. That should do it. But yeah, Railroads Online, as fun as it is, definitely could have been a lot better as time went on. Alright, water hatch open. We should be able to pour this in. Okay. Yeah, we should be able to move it. If not, we'll just move the locomotive for a little bit. No, it's angled. Oh, no, not quite. Just a further back, just a tad back, probably like an inch or two. This is probably one of the other benefits of Railroads Online, is that there was this nature that you could actually do, like, people could actually help you spot your equipment a little easier, because it's all in first person after all. Most of the game is in first person, which makes it very difficult to, now we're off on the other side. Which made it just the more dynamic type game that was like really kind of cool at the end of the day. Like, you could have a player spotting you on the water tower while you were operating the locomotive from the front end. And that was kind of a good appeal to this game. It was not a situation where it's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to have to spot this myself. Now, granted, the game made it easier over time for users to play by themselves. I mean, that was the whole thing with the UIs and everything. All right, we're gonna let this on. We're gonna uncouple there, and we're gonna put the brakes on. Brakes on. There we go. But it was the game itself was just one of these things where it's like, oh yeah, it's becoming more and more of a situation where, oh yeah, that's just gonna be how this game operates from now on, versus, oh, I can see the potential with this. Okay. What we're going to do, go on to the line here. I think what we need to do, I need to check on which one's the cordwood. Bulkhead flat there. Let's switch. Let's switch. And we're good to go. Let's switch. And we're good. So we're going to take our bulkheads up to the logging mill. Probably could just go into the third-person camera, but this is kind of fun. It's easier to load things in the third-person camera. That's the one benefit of playing single-player like this, is that you have the ability to play single-player and with the third-person camera. That's a lot easier to work with. But, yeah, this game is... There's a lot of things that have changed over the years. There was the appeal, there was there was definitely something to be said where the game had a potential of like, oh yeah, this is going to be a great little multiplayer narrow gauge experience. And granted, there's still moments like that. There's still plenty of people that play this game. But it's also a situation where, at this point, there are better options out there already. Many of which are developed by people that know a thing or two about Steam Locomotives, and some people that don't. I mean, I've seen quite a bit in terms of Roblox. Granted, the game Roblox itself is a nightmare for many reasons, but there's also just as strong of a community. The community is pretty strong. Like, the community that's out there for these Roblox train games is actually pretty impressive. Now, of course, like I said, Roblox has its own set of problems. The games themselves are not the problem. It's actually the company itself that's the problem. And that is a whole separate issue, which I would not want to get into on this channel. But needless to say, you probably won't see me playing any Roblox games in general on this channel or anything else. So, we're rolling. We're good. Hitched in. Ready to roll. Let's get the handbrakes. Let me make sure these... Okay, yeah. I knew that was tied. Yeah, it's, sign of the times. Like, with, like, how Railroads Online, many of these games, like... When it came to games like Railworks, I grew up with Microsoft Train Simulator. That was the game I grew up with as a kid. And when I picked up Railworks for the first time in 2015, late 2015, I've had the game for over 10 years. And it was one of those situations where I looked at it like, oh, this is basically the equivalent of MSTS, Microsoft Train Simulator, but with slightly improved graphics. Fast forward about 10 years now, and it's like, nothing's changed. Railworks is still the same as it was back in 2009, and Dovetail Games themselves has been slowly going down, has not changed much in terms of how they operate as a company. They've released Train Sim World 6, and look to be in the process of getting ready for Train Sim World 7, because they're just dumping DLCs left and right for Train Sim World 6, because I would assume most of these DLCs, like the Dami line for Train Sim World, I think that was announced in Train Sim World 5, and then proceeds to be rushed out for Train Sim World 6, because for some strange reason, Dovetail thought, oh, let's save all the Train Sim World 5 stuff for Train Sim World 6, and so on and so forth, and let's half-ass this stuff. Like, yeah, that's nothing new. And that's a big corporation. That's like a AA studio. The studio that's the publisher for Railroads Online is a little different story. If you actually go through the list of games that this publisher has released versus the games that this developer, the Qme, has worked on, like, Qme has worked on 2 games, this being the second game in his list. The publisher that he chose, Astragon Software, I think it is, or something like that. I don't remember the exact name of it, nor do I really bother with it, because this publisher, the publisher for this game, makes shovelware. If you don't know what the term shovelware is, it is basically cheaply made games that are quick to be published. You've most likely, basically bargain bin games that you would find at Walmart. Probably one of the most infamous examples is Over the Road Truckers or something. It's like one of the that infamous Big Rigs Over the Road Racing, I think it is. I think that's the game. But it's one of the most infamous examples of shovelware games. And you've most likely come across a lot of shovelware over your life. Hell, some of the PCs PCs used to come with shovelware games. Like Solitaire would be considered shovelware, because it was literally just a game that was included. Like, it was cheaply made and included with every PC. But now it's like the Railroads Online would be considered by the publisher, not by Qme, to be shovelware. Which is such a shame. This game had potential. This game is very fun to play. when you get right down to it. It's fun to mess around with, fun to create things and stuff like that. But the developer treats it like shovelware. It has not received an update since its 1.0 update about 2 years ago now. It's almost been 2 years since the 1.0 update, and it's not received an update ever since. It's been abandoned, essentially. Now, it's not to say that the development team is wanting to abandon it. I'm on the Railroads Online Discord, and there's plenty of people on the Discord. Many of whom have worked on the game, the community manager and everybody. Like, they're good people. They're open to wanting to work on the game. I'm sure QMA would want to continue working on the game. But the publisher, from what I've experienced on the outside, now this is not saying like this is actually gospel or anything true, but it's one of those things where like it seems like the publisher doesn't want to bother with this anymore. They've released the last update was in like 2024, 2025. Let me double check. I can actually look it up on Steam right now. I got the page open because I have to launch it through Steam. Last update was December 18th, 2024 was the last major update on this game. And that was a hot fix. The game has not received an update since. And that's a big deal. That's significant. That's a big problem. That is a major problem in terms of development. And I'm like kind of disappointed. Like I said, this game is very fun to play. It's very, like, it's the dynamic weather, all the little quirks with like running the trains, like each one has its own power and weight and all this kind of stuff. Like, yes, you have this infinite loop by the end of it of just using the same locomotives over and over again, doing the same jobs over and over again. But from the way I play it, the way I typically play it is just like you have certain locomotives for certain tasks, which is kind of the point of locomotives in the back in the day. But honestly, it's a situation where the developer doesn't seem to care. Or not the developer, the publisher doesn't seem to care. Just look from an outsider looking in. Now, granted, I'm sure this is completely wrong. I'm 100%. I would not be surprised if I'm completely wrong and the publisher is just like not like there's been sort of like a miscommunication there. But the fact that the last update for this game was in 2024, it's disappointing. There's no doubt about it. It's a disappointing fact. You got the same loops. You have no new content coming through the game. You had 2 pieces of DLC that came out, and those 2 pieces of DLC were like which was free for anyone that bought the game in early access, and the other one was just extra scenery tiles, and that's it. And it's like, well, that's not really good. That's not a good sign. Well, needless to say, it wasn't a good sign because the game, shortly after that, did not receive another update. And it's just like, well, what's the point? I do enjoy, like I said, I do enjoy this game. I have made videos on this for a while, and it's actually something that, for the most part, people do enjoy watching me play. Hell, one of my most viewed videos on my channel was the Railroads Online Let's Play that was the last video recorded in early access. And then I think the second most viewed video is my tips and tricks video. And both of those are pretty highly viewed. I actually put the tips and tricks video on Steam for those of you that are interested in watching it. It's pretty easy to spot because it's got the 2 locomotives on the thumbnail. It's got the Eureka and the Glenbrook on the front end. But it just, this game, there's a lot of, it's one of those things where like, it used to be a joke for a long time on the Railroads Online Discord, like, when's the next update? When's the next update? That joke has died away because there's been no update. There's been no communication. There's been no information on what's going on. And that's really sad. To me, this game should have a lot more attention to it. It should have a lot more attention brought to it. There is plenty to do in this game. There's plenty of action. There's plenty of stuff to... I mean, the fact that when they added achievements, you could have had so much potential and adding so much more to do with the game with those achievements. But they didn't. They decided not to mess around with the game afterwards. It's a one and done thing. And from the point of view, like from all the other stuff on their account, like all the other games on the publisher's profile on Steam, is like that seems to be the norm with them. Some of the most infamous games have been under their umbrella, by the looks of it, from what I can tell. And it's just like, this is terrible. Now, and again, I'm not blaming QMA. I'm not blaming anyone on the Railroads Online development side of things. I'm not blaming them. Because at the end of the day, they needed that help. This game was never going to get out of 1.0 if they didn't get the help. They're never going to get out of early access if they didn't get the help. I mean, not to compare it to Century of Steam and their development. Like, Century of Steam, their first thing that they did was that they waited a whole year before they even announced the game was in development. The team at Studio 346 waited a full year to say, hey, this game's in development. They've been developing it for a year before they even announced it. Railroads Online, for all its shortcomings, most likely should have gotten the same treatment, and to some extent it did. Railroads Online, when they got bought by the publisher that they're currently under, they had been in development for a few years by that point. And QMA, to his credit, I think mentioned that the reason he went to the public, I think somebody mentioned on the team, the reason they went to that particular publisher was because they needed the support. There's no other way to go about, like for them, there was no other way to keep going with the development. This was all spread out. And to some extent, you see this with other early access games. Railroader being the biggest example of this recently. Railroader is still in early access. It's been in early access for over a year. Their next big update, the Maintenance of Way update, is still in development, and it's one guy. It's one dude. Adam has been working diligently on this update for a while, and it shows. Like he will post every now and again, hey, this is what's going on in the development side of things. I think he's started doing a monthly update on Steam for Railroader, and it's like, okay, that looks pretty cool. That's pretty impressive. But he even admits, like, when he first announced the Maintenance Way update, like, this is nowhere near ready. And the same thing goes with Studio 346 with Century of Steam. Every time they show something off on their Patreon or on their YouTube channel, it's like, yeah, this is nowhere near ready. This is nowhere near done, and they've been developing it at this point for almost 3 years. And it's one of those things where, like, yeah, this is not going to be ready anytime soon. Now, granted, they have said that they do want to get it out eventually. Like Century of Steam, when Century of Steam comes out, I'm playing it day one. I am playing it on the channel as soon as it comes out, and that's going to be like probably the biggest video on the channel for a while. But I will not fully abandon Railroads Online until I get to a point in the game, the point, at least for me, where I feel like, yeah, this will be the next big step, like where we'll probably have to move on to another, I don't know if Century of Steam will be, like, I know Century of Steam will be a much more in-depth game, but for a sort of pick up and play and podcast type format, like I do with Railroads Online and many of the other games, I think Railroads Online will still be a big part of this channel. Because at the end of the day, this has kind of become the podcast format for this channel. It's like, this is kind of a podcast. People watch this and listen to this in the background while they are doing something else. I've gotten that comment a few times on these videos where, like, oh, this is a very good podcasting video. I look at the statistics of many of my videos every now and again, and granted, people watch the first couple of minutes and then tune out, like in terms of watch time, but the people that stick around till the very end, I'm very thankful. because these people, they show they are interested at least in what I'm saying, or at least want to listen to me in the background while they're doing something else. They like the gameplay, or like me messing around. It's like, this is one of those times where it's like, yeah, it's a situation where it's very different. And a game like Century of Steam, Railroad, or even Railworks for that matter, it takes a little bit more concentration. So usually late into the game, I stop talking because I'm concentrating on doing what I need to do. Railroads Online is not like that. Railroads Online, I can talk throughout the entire thing while I do what I do. And that's kind of the beauty of this game. It's a kind of pick up and play type thing where you don't need to concentrate. And that's one of those things where it's like, okay, so what do we do next? Like, what's the next course of action with this? But yeah, Railroads Online has a lot of potential, but it's also one of these things where it's like, well, yeah, you took a shot and you missed it. It's kind of a double-edged sword. But anyway, guys, thank you guys. I'm probably going to end it here. I've been recording for about 40 minutes. And just now got the logs loaded up here. But yeah, like and comment down below. Subscribe if you guys want more. And I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.